Building wealth from scratch is exhausting. You pile up your savings and do everything right, but watching your money grow feels like waiting for a tiny spark to ignite a pile of damp wood. It's the reason so many people delay investing. You grind at your job to save a few $1,000s, but the return on that massive physical effort seems disproportionately small. Let's say you manage to scrape together a $5,000 portfolio. Even with a highly respectable 10% annual return, that translates to just $500 for an entire year of waiting. Seeing that, motivation vanishes. You know you could earn that same $500 just by picking up a few extra weekend shifts. The financial reward barely registers against the human labor required to save it. This mathematical reality is why billionaire investor Charlie Munger asserted that amassing your first $100,000 is the hardest hurdle in wealth building. During this early phase, the system feels broken. You're doing 100% of the heavy lifting to fund your accounts, making the whole endeavor feel futile. But that agonizing crawl eventually ends. Once you cross the $100,000 threshold, the burden of effort shifts away from your back and onto your money. Watch what happens to this graph when we apply that exact same 10% return to a $100,000 portfolio. Suddenly, that percentage yields $10,000. Project this identical mathematical engine forward to the $1 million milestone, and that 10% return generates a massive $100,000. Without you lifting a finger, the investment generates enough pure profit to entirely replace the annual salary of a full-time worker. This is the snowball effect in action. As the portfolio's mass increases, the rate of its absolute dollar growth accelerates without requiring any additional effort from the investor. Reaching critical mass is more important than chasing high interest rates, as it allows the math of scale to take over and drive the growth of your capital. Seeing large sums of cash materialize autonomously in your accounts begins to provide its own psychological momentum. It changes how you interact with money on a daily basis. Consider the choice to spend $100 on a single dinner out. You stop viewing that meal as a minor expense. Because you understand the math of scale, you realize that spending that cash today robs you of decades of compounding future growth. That capital cushion also introduces the concept of asymmetrical risk. Having a financial safety net allows you to take calculated gambles where the potential upside outweighs the downside. Living paycheck to paycheck prevents you from taking a high-paying, commission-only job, starting a business, or purchasing a discounted piece of speculative real estate. Reaching six figures acts as an options multiplier. It gives you the freedom to participate in the economy in highly lucrative ways that are usually off-limits. After you survive that initial climb, the landscape changes. Amassing your second $100,000, and eventually your first million, takes a fraction of the original time. At this stage, the money has replaced you as the primary laborer, churning out returns year after year. But there is no escaping the reality of getting there. Reaching that first milestone requires brute force human effort and extreme frugality. It involves working second jobs, dodging expensive car loans, and ruthlessly cutting unnecessary spending from your budget. This restrictive lifestyle remains a temporary phase that ends once the portfolio can sustain its own growth. By the time your accounts hit critical mass, the discipline and market risk tolerance you developed along the way have become automatic habits. Every single dollar you fight to save during those early years is a tireless employee you are hiring for tomorrow. Once the machine is built, you can finally let off the gas.